got shorted in the documentary short film shortlist? That's just one of the things we're going to talk about today as I dug into this shortlist through my Oscar Obsessed ADHD point of view. I have broken it down, I've got my top 8, I've got my snubs and surprises, and I'm glad you're here because I want to hear your opinions. I want to talk to you about it because this category is one of the few where there is definitely not a front runner. So let's dig in and let's get started, gang. Only the documentary branch gets to vote for this shortlist, and thank goodness it's them and not me, because I had a heck of a time getting it down from 15 to 8. I don't know how they got it down from 104 to 15, let alone are going to get it down to 5. I mean, I'm pretty confident in 3 of my picks, 4 and 5, not so much. But this year, there is just no frontrunner. The competition is so fierce. I mean, if I look at my top 5, between them, they have over 18 wins and 12 nominations between all of the festivals and things that have already gone on. I mean, that's insane. 2 of them actually won International Short Documentary Feature. You might be wondering how that happened. One won in 2023, one won in 2024, but technically because of theater release, they're both eligible this year. I mean, holy cow. And of those 15 shortlisted, 3 of them are directed by directors who have previously been nominated for Oscars. So where does that leave us? I don't know, but let's dig in. So in alphabetical order, here are the 15 documentary short films that made the shortlist. Chasing Rue, Death by Numbers, Eternal Father, I Am Ready, Warden, Incident, Instruments of a Beating Heart, Keeper, Makayla's Voice, A Letter to the World, Once Upon a Time in Ukraine, The Only Girl in the Orchestra, Plantwalker, The Quilters, Seat 31, Zooey, Zephyr, A Swim Lesson, Until He's Back. If you're like me, you probably hadn't heard about any of these films until they made the shortlist. That's okay, gang. That's what I'm here for. I've read the reviews, I've done the research, I've watched the trailers that I could find, and I think I'm ready to make my predictions. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start with number 15. I'm going to work my way up. So you're going to want to stay till the end to find out who I've predicted as the winner. And then I want to know, is that who you predicted? If not, cool. Let's talk about it. So coming in at number 15, I have Until He's Back. This documentary tells the story of a father who has learned that his son died on the journey from Africa to Spain through the Gibraltar Strait. The father now wants to bring the son's body home, and we explore the difficulties that he has in bringing the body home so that he can have a proper burial and his family has the opportunity to say goodbye. And there's a lot of people along the way who kind of help the father try to get the son's body back home. It sounds great, but like I said, with the level of competition there is, this is one that I have at number 15. Number 14 is Seat 31, Zooey, Zephyr. This is a 15-minute documentary that tells the story of a Montana state representative who made international news when they fought for trans medical care. And during this documentary, we learn about the huge decision they make in their own personal life. This film and the one prior, Until He's Back, both scored a 6.2 on IMDb. I don't know if those scores are helpful for you guys or if you want to know those scores in the future, so, hit me up in comments and let me know. For me, they're not like my deciding factor of whether or not a film gets into my nomination top 5. However, I do like to know where critics stand. For example, my next one, number 13 that I've got, is A Swim Lesson. That one scored a 7.0 on IMDb, and after reading the reviews, I can see why. It's a 21-minute documentary that tells the story of an everyday hero, Bill Marsh. This guy is fabulous and must have the patience of a saint because he has taught thousands of children how to swim. He works with the kids and their families as they try to overcome their fear of the water and embrace their own power as they get into this kind of very scary, unknown world. Let me tell you, if you know how to swim, that's fabulous. I do, but my mother, she cannot swim, and it scares the bejeezers out of her. And it stops her from doing things like just hanging out on a beach or going canoeing or going down a water slide. And I used to think like she was an odd duck out for that, but from reading the reviews and the things I've learned, I learned some knowledge. And I'm going to drop that knowledge on you guys. So here it goes. Half of the world's population cannot swim. And in the United States, the leading cause of death for children between the ages of 1 and 4 is drowning. And since the pandemic, so since 2020, drowning deaths in children has increased by 12%. The New York Times cites drowning as a long-neglected public health crisis with an obvious need for action to aid in prevention. Even though this documentary didn't make my top 8 or my top 5, it's documentaries like this and the others that tell stories that need to be heard. So I'm really glad they make the shortlist because more people will be apt to see them. And what a great guy in this Bill Marsh. I mean, having the patience and fortitude to teach young toddlers and infants how to swim and help navigate those waters, so to speak, it's remarkable. And so kudos to making the shortlist. At number 12, I have Chasing Rue, directed by Sky Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald is a well-known director in the documentary branch. They've been nominated 2 times previous for their work, once in 2019 for Lifeboat and again in 2021 for Hunger Ward. In this year's shortlisted documentary, Chasing Rue, they actually look into an investigation about the harvesting of kangaroos in Australia. Duders, this is such an important topic, and thank goodness there are filmmakers like Fitzgerald who will talk about these things and film these sorts of stories. My little animal-loving heart, there's no way I could do it. I mean, I will watch the 35-minute documentary. However, it's probably going to be hard on me, and I'm just saying, props to Fitzgerald. Chasing Rue and my number 11 pick, Keeper, do not have ratings yet on IMDb. Doesn't mean they're not good, it just means enough people haven't seen them to give them ratings yet. So keep that in mind as you investigate all your shortlist picks. Number 11, I have Keeper. This documentary tells the story of a single father living in the Bronx who gets diagnosed with cancer. As part of his diagnosis, he's told he has to give up the one hobby and the one thing that brings him joy and happiness and, in his mind, aids in his healing, and that is beekeeping. I don't know how the story ends. I don't know why it assists with his healing. I haven't seen it yet. So you might be wondering, why did I rank it as number 11? Remember, documentary branch is the one that gets to vote on this. And in today's world, there is a lot of talk about bees and how they're becoming extinct and people who like beekeeping. So I think it's a topic that will resonate with people. And so that's why I think it'll bump up over the other ones. However, not bump it up enough to actually get a nomination. Same thing that's going to happen with number 10, Death by Numbers. We all know school shootings happen. They happen way too frequently. By Numbers gives us a glimpse into someone's life 4 years after being shot with an AR-15 while attending high school. They are going to confront their shooter, and we follow them as they deal with the existential questions of hatred, forgiveness, justice, and everything they have to deal with as they're coming through the aftermath of this horrific event, even 4 years later. I think that in today's world, this topic is front and center as to what kind of impact school shootings have on the survivors, the families of survivors. The last 3 of these movies that I've talked about have not been rated on IMDb yet. That doesn't mean they're not good. It just means enough people haven't seen them yet to rate them. At number 9, I have Eternal Father. This is rated 5.2 on IMDb. And let me tell you, the storyline sounds crazy. Like, I had to remind myself that this is a documentary, which means it's real. So the story is about Nazir. He's an older gentleman, had kids later in life, and now all of a sudden he's like fearing that he won't get a future with them, he won't get to see them grow up. And so he has made the decision that he is going to be cryogenically frozen after death, because this is the only way he can be reunited with his family later on. Well, now all of a sudden the rest of his family is thinking, oh my gosh, should we follow suit? Should I do the same thing? Like, am I going to miss out? And all of a sudden everybody's so worried about the future that they're not living in the present, which makes Nazir rethink his decision and realize, wow, maybe I should live in the present, enjoy my kids for what I have, and remember what's truly important. So crazy that people still want to be cryogenically frozen. Stoked to see it. There's my shortlist choices, number 9 through 15. Like I promised you, here's my top 8. Reminder, 6, 7, 8 could easily go into 4 or 5. So that's why I'm giving you my 6, 7, 8, because they are definitely on the bubble. My next choice is a 31-minute rated 6.6 documentary called Plantwalker. Okay, the title didn't tell me much, but when I read about it, like, holy cow, the principles on this guy. Okay, so documentary tells the story of a gentleman who witnessed a devastating oil spill back in the day, and he decided to give up motorized transportation. So for the past 17 years, that's right, 17 years, he has been on a journey across the United States to raise awareness on environmental issues. And all he has on this journey is his banjo and his principles. I mean, this is a gripping story that shows us how much of an impact one event can have on an individual and what this one individual chooses to do with their life and to make a difference. And I admire this guy because I can't imagine going without motorized transportation for a day, a week, a month, let alone 17 years. So, Instruments of a Beating Heart I have at number 7, which might seem fairly low to some of you after I tell you that it has 1 nomination and 1 very big win with International Documentary Short Film of 2024. It has an IMDb rating of 7.2. In this 23-minute documentary, it tells the story of first graders in a public school in Tokyo, Japan, who are given a year-end challenge to learn Ode to Joy. And they have to learn this Ode to Joy song because their job is to perform it for the incoming first graders. So like after kindergarten graduation, they perform this Ode to Joy. And there's this one kid who's usually fairly shy, and they've decided that they want to take on a monumentous big role in this Ode to Joy. And that big role is playing the big drum. Now, I get all of the accolade and the rating. I should probably put it higher. But given everything else I've read about these films, I guess I couldn't put it higher than number 7, but it is at number 7 because of all the accolades and everything is why it's on my bubble. So at number 6, I have I Am Ready, Warden. This is one of those documentaries I was telling you guys about that's directed by somebody who was previously nominated for an Oscar. Yeah, so Smitra Mandhan, I'm sure I'm slaughtering that name, and I'm sorry, was nominated in 2020 for their work St. Louis Superman. Well, in this 37-minute documentary, I Am Ready, Warden, which, by the way, has been rated 6.1 by IMDb. It has 1 win and 2 nominations, and it is a gripping story of John Henry Ramirez, who committed murder, was found guilty, and sentenced to death in the state of Texas. He is now serving his time, getting ready for execution, and during this time, he has decided he wants to reach out to the victim's son to allow the victim's family to have some closure. Well, at the same time, he's attempting to say goodbye to his own family. And we see this, like, just powerful story of a man who realizes that his mistake, this horrific thing that he's done, has not only caused pain to his family, but also the victim's family. And he's struggling with that. And us as a viewer, we see this man as, yes, a murderer, but we also see him as a person, and a person who is struggling with what is about to happen, yet they are ready to face the consequences of their actions. So this is my number 6, so this one is right on the bubble. So okay, now to my 5. The 5 that I think will get nominations. Well, at least 3 will get nominations. So, at number 5, Makayla's Voice, A Letter to the World. This is rated 7.4 on IMDb. It's 23 minutes long. It has 7 wins, 4 nominations. One of those wins was actually at the Tribeca Film Festival. Everything I've read is, it's a tearjerker, it's emotional, it's heartwarming. This documentary tells the story of an autistic teen who has never been able to speak, has never been able to provide any sort of self-expression. And with the use of a letterbox, they are able to finally begin communicating and share their real selves. I mean, I cannot imagine what we see in this documentary as we're watching a teen for the first time be able to communicate with the rest of the world. So that, along with the wins, is why I got to put it at number 5. My number 4 pick might be kind of a long shot. However, given the fact that it has 4 wins, one of which was Woodstock Film Festival and a nomination, I think it stands a really good chance. It's 33 minutes long. It hasn't been rated by IMDb yet, but the film is called The Quilters. This documentary kind of follows 2 quilts from design to completion, which, okay, you're like, quilting, how exciting can that be? Well, the interesting part is who is quilting these quilts. It actually is men living in a level 5 correctional facility, a maximum security prison in a small town about 2 hours outside of St. Louis. And we see these men in this sewing room that's got no windows and, just bare walls. And yet we look beyond these men being prisoners and we see the pride that they take in making these quilts, and also the struggles that they go through while being in prison. Everything I've read about it is that the camera work is remarkable. I mean, it shows the texture of the fabrics, the colors, the sewing machines, the men's hands as they make these quilts. I mean, I think it's just a feel-good story, which also has a good happy ending. I mean, these quilts end up being given to foster children as birthday presents. My number 3 pick is definitely going to be a nominee. Like, I will go on record, that is a lockdown for me in the nominations. I mean, out of all 15, this is the highest rated one on IMDb. It's rated an 8.2. It's 30 minutes long. It has won 8 awards. It's been nominated 7 other times. One of the awards it won was International Documentary Short Film in 2023. The one that won in 2024 was my number 7 pick, Instruments of a Beating Heart. This film, however, though, phenomenal. You might be asking yourself, well then, why aren't you putting it at number 1? Well, coming in at number 3 is the documentary Incident. The main reason I don't think Incident will get number 1 is because of the topic of the documentary. This documentary basically reassembles the 2018 police shooting that occurred in 2018. They actually look at the entire event and the aftermath of the event using different footage from all different sources, like CCTV, surveillance cameras, dashboard, body cams, pretty much anything they could get their hands on. And they do kind of this side-by-side montage to show the entire event and then what occurs. I mean, it gives a true and real voice to crime. It needs to be shown. I still cannot believe they got a hold of all of this footage, but I just think that given the topic, they will not want to honor it as an actual Oscar winner, but it will be a nominee. We're now down to my final 2. If you've been keeping track, you know which 2 we've got left. The Only Girl in the Orchestra and Once Upon a Time in the Ukraine. So, which one is it? Which one's number 2? Which one's number 1? Okay, here we go. At number 2, I have The Only Girl in the Orchestra. This is rated 7 on IMDb. It's 34 minutes long. It's won 2 awards. Best Documentary Short at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Film Festival. And it won the Critics' Choice Documentary Short Film Award. So that's a pretty big deal. This film tells the story of a trailblazing musician, Owen O'Brien, and her double bass instrument, who, as you can probably guess from the title, is the only woman in the orchestra. What orchestra is that, though, you might ask? It's the New York Philharmonic. Yeah, that's right. She was the first woman to join the New York Philharmonic in 1966, back when the orchestra was led by Leonard Bernstein. She stayed there for the next 55 years. She finally retired in 2021, and I guess she now still teaches music. I mean, freaking remarkable. This is an endearing, heartfelt story, and it takes it to a whole nother level when you realize it's an homage from a niece to her aunt. Yep, Molly O'Brien is the niece of Onan O'Brien, and Molly O'Brien directed this film. So, I mean, come on. Between the critic accolades, the story, the behind-the-scenes story, like, it's going to be up there in nominations. I, however, just cannot put it at number one. Predicting Once Upon a Time in Ukraine to win the Oscar for Best Documentary Short Film. Now, for those of you cinephiles out there, I'm sure you're like, hello, it's not rated on IMDb. It's got no critical awards, not nominations or wins. I get it, but hear me out for a second. It does have some things going for it. It's co-directed by Katskavania Tataval. Can't say that name. And Betsy West. Betsy West is one of the directors I was telling you about, previously nominated for an Oscar in 2019 for documentary feature film RBG. So they've got good filmmakers behind it. Beyond the great filmmaking and directing, we also have Liv Schreiber, who has taken on an executive producer role. They've actually started a nonprofit called Blue Check Ukraine. The Ukraine has been very close to his heart since he tracked back like Ukrainian heritage on his mother's side. He was actually involved in the documentary short film Ukrainians in Exile. And this film has the backing then of somebody very passionate about the Ukrainian situation and willing to put money behind it. I picked this film to win the Oscar because of the subject matter. The public, and especially the Academy, cannot believe that the war between Russia and Ukraine is still going on and the devastating effects that Russia continuing to try to plunder the Ukraine has had. We know the Academy is drawn towards Ukrainian films, as last year documentary feature film winner was 20 Days in Mariupol, about the Ukraine situation. This film shows the realness of Ukraine, just like 20 Days in Mariupol did, except it's not showing us the dead bodies and that side of the Ukraine, right? We're seeing it from a different side. I mean, we're now entering year 3 of this conflict war between the Ukraine and Russia, and this film looks at it through the resilience in the eyes of the children. These children are remarkable. Instead of focusing on the negative and what they don't have, they take their backyards and playgrounds that have been destroyed by Russian missiles, and they use their imagination. They create these like vegetable armies, and these little vegetable armies are going to defeat all the Russian soldiers that are out there. With everything going on around them, these children continue to dance and sing. They want to keep the Ukrainian tradition of music alive, and they do this by like going to bombed out music studios and just having little parties. I mean, see it now through the eyes of the children. The children who are hoping to survive this brutal invasion, but yet also understand that this war-torn country is what they're going to inherit. This is their future, and what are they going to do with it? What a powerful and moving message this documentary has. I mean, we all know war-torn Ukraine. We've seen the news, or we watched last year's documentary feature film, yet to see it through the eyes of children takes it to a whole nother level. It's moving, it's powerful, and for that reason, it is my locked down Oscar winner documentary short film. Okay, so that leaves us with my favorite part of nominations, surprises and snubs. So here they are, guys. In this category was my number 11 pick, Keeper. It has no wins, no nominations, and it wasn't really talked about until the shortlist, or at least I couldn't find anything that talked about it until the shortlist. So makes me surprised it got on the shortlist. Part of me goes back to, I think it's because of the topic of beekeeping. Telling you, man, people love talking about bees and how they're going extinct. I mean, I hear about it from my uncle. I mean, he loves the bees. He wants to protect the bees. I think that's the reason this one even made the short list. But again, it's going to fall short of the nominations. It'll get number 11. Well, that's where I'm calling it. So my snub is for defending champ, 2-time Oscar winner, 1-time nominee, Ben Proudfoot. Okay. He not only got snubbed for one film, he got snubbed for 2 films. He had 2 this year that were eligible in this category. The Turnaround and the final copy of Eilan Specht. Neither made the shortlist. I mean, the guy won this category last year for The Last Repair Shop. And he won this category in 2022 for The Queen of Basketball. And he was nominated in 2021 for A Concerto is a Conversation. And yet, the documentary branch did not put either one of his films on the short list. I cannot believe that. It blows my mind. But I guess, as I said in the very beginning, this category is very difficult this year. There's no front runner and there's a lot of good films out there. But to me, this is still a snub. So yep, Ben Proudfoot got shorted in documentary short film shortlist. I told you we'd answer the question. We did. We also talked snubs, surprises. We went through the 15 contenders vying for those 5 spots. I gave you my predictions and my winner. Who are you guys predicting? Who do you have winning? Because I'm sure it's different than mine. Put it in comments. I'd love to hear about it. Let's start a conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I'm going to be talking about all the other categories between now and nominations in January 17th. And I want to hear your opinions. All of the films and all of the categories through my Oscar Obsessed ADHD Point of View. Thanks for joining, and until next time.